President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has vetoed three items in the 2023 national budget. To talk about this, here's our palace reporter Daphne Galvez. So, Daphne?
President Bongbong Marcos has rejected three provisions in the 2023 General Appropriations Act, which contains the 5.2 trillion peso national budget for next year. In his veto message, Marcos said the rejected provisions do not relate to any particular appropriation and would effectively amend substantive laws. Among the provisions the president vetoed is the use of revolving funds for DepEd TV of the Department of Education. Marcos said there is no law authorizing the department to create a revolving fund for the purpose. He also reasoned that the DepEd TV is not a business type activity where a revolving fund can be established from its receipts. The president also rejected the provision prohibiting the use of funds to change the country's tourism campaign. He said the provision intends to limit the exercise of the functions of the executive branch in implementing the Tourism Act. Under the said law, the Department of Tourism is the primary agency for the planning, implementation, and regulation of the tourism industry's promotion. Finally, Marcos vetoed the provision on the use of income of the National Labor Relations Commission or NLRC. He said the subject income already forms part of the revenue and financing sources of the 2023 National Expenditure Program. Presidential Decree number 1445 also states that income accruing to agencies shall be deposited in the National Treasury or in any duly authorized government depository and shall accrue to the unappropriated surplus of the general fund of the government. Marcos also said that the NLRC is not authorized to use its income since its operations are fully provided under its budget. The president signed the 2023 national budget law last December 16. This spending plan is the first full budget of Marcos's administration, which seeks to put more emphasis on agriculture. On Wednesday, Marcos reaffirmed his vow to provide 1 million housing units for indigent families every year during his 6-year term. The president led the groundbreaking ceremony of the housing project in Palayan City, Nueva Ecija, which is part of his administration's Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program. According to Malacanang, the project will have 11,000 housing units, a new school, a market, among other community facilities. Back to you, Neil.
Mm-hmm. Daphne, so just to summarize it quickly, President Marcos has signed the 2023 national budget, but he vetoed three items in that budget. So the question now is which agencies got the most budget for next year?
Yes, Neil, DepEd got the biggest share of next
Mm-hmm.
year's budget, which amounts to 900.9 billion
Mm-hmm.
pesos. That includes a confidential and intelligence fund of
Mm-hmm.
150 million at the disposal of Education Secretary Vice President Sara Duterte. DepEd was followed by the Department of Public Works and Highways at 881.9 billion pesos and the Department of Health at 334.9 billion pesos. It can be also noted, Neil, that the Department of Agriculture, which of course President Marcos
Mm-hmm.
heads, was given a budget of 178.7 billion
Mm-hmm.
pesos. This is 43.9% higher from this year's allocation.
Mhm. So despite the pushback from some lawmakers in the House of Representatives and the Senate, the confidential and intelligence funds under the DepEd was retained. So Daphne, I believe this is the largest budget we've had, the largest national budget that we've had so far in Philippine history. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that information. So what, with that said, what is the primary vision of the Marcos administration with regard to this budget? Is it addressing the pandemic still, or are we moving towards a recovery?
Correct, Neil, the 2023 budget is 4.9% higher than this year's 5.02 trillion. For its vision, next year's spending plan seeks to support the administration's goal of economic transformation. This is ultimately to raise the growth of the country's gross domestic product or GDP. The
Mhm.
president also earlier said that the National Expenditure Program, which was the basis for the budget, was
Mhm.
anchored on his agenda for prosperity. And also, Neil, based on the shared agencies on the budget, we can see that this administration intends to focus on education, infrastructure, health, and agriculture.
Mhm.
Neil?
Okay. Thanks, Daphne. That's Daphne Galvez reporting live.